Karen Cahail joining us here, the founder of Necessary Education Corporation and nonprofit for human rights. We're excited to have her here to talk more about the mission and the work she's doing and how she's helping so many people change. We're going to talk about the petitioning. We're going to talk about everything she does. But first and foremost, I want to welcome you to the show. Hi, Karen. How are you?
I'm doing great, thank you.
Great. So you're based out
Nice
of
to meet you.
Wichita, Kansas, correct?
Yes.
And would you mind telling me a little bit about what it is that you do exactly? Just a quick overview, and then I want to dive into you and get to know you a little further first.
Okay, well, I became a human rights consultant. I'm trying to get my son's human rights respected, but I never could. I never could. And he died because of it. He died because of it. And so after he died, I spoke before the city council, and then I
Oh,
went to speak to my state legislators, and I started a nonprofit for human rights. And currently, I'm working on suing the federal government,
wow.
and I can't find a lawyer, so I'm doing it myself. And
God bless you.
and it's a
Well,
lot of work.
well, I commend you on this, but before we get into this whole, I want to hear everything about your son, what's been happening, and how you're looking to change and to get people to sign this petition. Let me find out just a little bit about you. Where were you born and raised?
Well, I was born in Wichita, Kansas, but I was raised in Kansas, Florida, California, and Idaho and Oregon.
Wow. Wow. And as a young girl, I know you said you wanted to become a housewife, right? And let's talk a little bit about the journey, what happened and the trauma in your life. I mean, we all have had some. Would you mind sharing your personal story with us?
Oh well, yeah, I wanted to be a housewife and nurture my family. And well, my son's dad was when I was pregnant with him, he was escorted out of state by the sheriffs to
Oh,
make sure he left state. So instead, I became a single parent, and then I went to college trying to make a better life for my kids. And um, well, then everything just went bad. His dad died, and he viewed his dad's body, and he died screaming, and he never recovered from it.
how old was he?
He was I think he was 20, 26 maybe,
Oh my
or
goodness. And
yeah,
okay,
he. Yeah.
how many kids do you have overall?
Oh, I have three. I have two
Three.
girls. Mhm.
Okay, so this was the trauma that your son faced at that age. And how many years ago was this when his father passed?
That was 2011.
Okay, and would you mind sharing now what happened since then with your family? And of course, what led you here today?
Okay, well, my son suddenly developed diabetes type 1 autoimmune at age 26.
Mm.
And he was a brittle diabetic.
Okay.
So even in the hospital, it was hard for them to control his blood sugar. And he had ADHD and PTSD and major depression. But instead of Social Security helping my son, I was disabled. I lived on disability. His dad was dead, and he desperately needed their help. Instead of helping him, they berated him and basically abused him and blamed him for not being able to figure out how to live with his new diagnosis. And they denied him right up until he died, and he's dead now. And so,
Ah,
so I'm suing them.
I am so sorry. Well, let me ask you what the diabetes is what killed him?
Well, actually, it was a combination of factors. But he was dying. They told him in 2017 he had 1 to 5 years to live,
Ah,
and then I think in 2018 they said yeah. Anyway, we knew he was dying, but he did small amounts of methamphetamine to be able to stay awake so he could take his insulin,
mm-hmm.
and that's the reason why they discriminated against him and let him die. And when he lost all will to live when he got his last denial letter, and he just folded over. I took a picture of him, and he was dead within 72 hours. And they they said he died of a methamphetamine toxicity, but that's what they put at the top of your death certificate. It turns out is actually the last thing that happened. and it may not be necessarily what killed you.
You're
But
kidding.
no, no, I did the research and found that out. And so, yeah, the last thing that happened before he died, he got high. But that doesn't
So they're
necessarily.
blaming that, and that's why they won't cover the expenses and what you need?
Well, when he was alive, they were saying, well, that's causing the problems, and it's like, no, it's actually his um, bacteria causes infections.
Mhm.
Methamphetamine doesn't, and he was only just doing very, very small amounts just to be able to stay awake. And I watched him go off of it twice, and he
Ah,
ended up in the hospital near death because he wasn't awake to take his insulin. And it turns out that beta cells in your pancreas have dopamine receptors, and
okay.
dopamine helps to process insulin. I mean, helps to process glucose in the absence of insulin.
Mm-hmm.
And methamphetamine releases large amounts of dopamine, and so it was actually keeping him alive because um, it helped to
Well,
process the glucose.
mm. Well, let me ask, how did you get your start with this? Because you talk a little bit about Michelle Obama in your notes, and
Mhm.
I want to make everyone aware that this is a new nonprofit that you just decided to start this in December, right? And how do we contact you in the nonprofit before we continue?
Well, I don't have a website yet because, like I said, it is very new,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm living on just my disability income, which is like $1,000 a month. So I still don't
Oh,
have a website, and so
okay.
we would love to have somebody help us with that if they want to donate that or anything else. And so my phone number is 808-389-4482. That's a Hawaii phone number that I kept when I moved back here to take care of my son.
Well, we would
And
love to get the word out to have people, please help and donate to this cause. Let's talk more about the nonprofit. What is the name of it? And what are some of the things, that you mentioned the Obamas in this? How were they helpful?
actually I started speaking out against the things that I saw them doing to people. Um, and we were organized stalked, me and my son, by the Wichita Police Department. And they told me how to get my own evidence. So I did. That's all I did for a year. And I'd been to everybody trying to
Ah,
get help. And so I finally went to President Obama and Michelle Obama separately and the White House advisor on violence against women. And they sent the National Intelligence Agency out to investigate. And they suggested I move to Hawaii. And I did for a year. And I came back to nurse my son back after COVID, but I couldn't nurse him back to health. So I just took care of him until he died. So
ah,
they told the Wichita Police Department to stop organized stalking us. Yeah.
wow. Wow. I can't believe this. This is now how many years were you dealing with this? And still, obviously.
Well, they started it in 2015 because that's when I started speaking out against what I was seeing. I decided, I'm a disabled old woman. I don't see any hope for my life getting any better,
Could you
and I have.
share a little bit about your disability as well? Would you mind?
Oh, okay. Yeah, I have extensive degenerative disc disease with osteoarthritis, stenosis,
Oh,
and bone spurring. And
oh,
so it's bone on bone in one point in my back, and
oh.
and so that's pretty painful. But yeah.
So you're fighting for justice. You're fighting for your son. You're fighting for those that went through what you went through, obviously. And what are, some of the next steps? What have you learned to start this nonprofit? What are some of the things that could happen if we get the funds? And I know there's a petition. We got to tell everyone at change.org. How do we find that exact petition for
Well,
you?
actually, I started to do the petition, and then I found out that no, the laws are already in place.
Oh,
The laws are already in place, and this was the result of one man's hate. And he spread it to the doctors who signed papers that I don't even think they read his medical records because of what this man did. And so I'm putting in my lawsuit that I'm not going to accept any settlement
yeah.
that does not include him being put on the GSA exclusion list,
Yeah.
so that because he has no business, his hate has no business
No.
being where our most vulnerable population goes to get help when they desperately need it.
Oh,
His hate
my
has no
goodness.
place there.
No. Well, Karen, you have a platform here today to tell your story, to make it known about this nonprofit. What would you say to people out there who, may want to help? Could you give us some more of the background of why they should reach out to you and why this is so important?
Well, when someone has mental health problems, like my son did, he had trouble with transitions,
Mm-hmm.
and he always had trouble with transitions. And his dad was dead, and I was disabled, and I didn't know what to do. I didn't know
Yeah.
anything about diabetes, and he needed someone to help him, guide him
Mm-hmm.
on how to be able to live. And he was discriminated against, and when he went to the doctor because of what was in his medical records about the meth, and on the paperwork from the insulin, it said that an allergic reaction could cause to break out around the mouth and the
Yeah.
neck, and it was around his body too. And when he told them he was allergic to it, they didn't change his medicine.
Ah,
They didn't give him a different insulin or anything. He was just um it was humiliation, degradation, and dehumanization. He didn't even have a voice anymore to be a accurate appraiser of reality, and so they didn't change his insulin, even though
ah.
he had all the symptoms. And so I was reading his medical records a year later. He stopped taking it because he knew he was allergic to it. But even in the hospital, it was hard to control it. I'm sorry, I'm rambling off now. I can't remember
No,
what the question
no,
was.
it's okay. It's
But
okay. I just want to know more about your story, your son's story, and your journey to fight for him, to talk about this nonprofit that's hopefully going to help others and,
oh yeah,
people out
that
there
that that
listening.
yeah. I'm sorry. Yeah, that's So I'm fighting for the rights of people that have like ADHD and mental health
Mm-hmm.
problems, who instead of getting help from the Social Security
Yep.
Administration, get abused and left to die because of discrimination and bias.
Mm-hmm.
And he desperately needed their help, and he didn't get it, and it led to his death. And I don't want that to happen to other people.
So moving forward, here you are you a single mom at this point?
Yeah, my daughters are grown. Actually have grandchildren now.
You do. Congratulations. How many?
I'm five.
Oh my goodness. And do they all live close by?
Yeah, they live just one town over. I've got the four granddaughters and a well, actually five granddaughters now
God
because the
bless.
the grandson became a granddaughter.
Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. That's amazing. That brings you some joy, I'm sure. What else in life would you say, is important to you that gets you out of bed every day? I mean, with your own disability, with what's happening, with how you were treated and your son, how do you do it?
Well, when I moved to Hawaii, someone I'd been talking about trying to prevent suicide, and someone actually did the research and wrote an article and put it where I could read it. And when I moved from Sedgwick County, Kansas to Hawaii,
Yep.
the suicide rate here rose by 75%. And when I
Wow.
got to Hawaii, their suicide rate dropped.
Oh,
And one of the things I do is that if I see somebody like throw their coat, or
yeah.
they seem angry, or they're something, I instead of avoiding them,
Mm-hmm.
I approach them, and they are always seem to be receptive. And I'm like, is everything okay? Is there anything I can do to help? And usually it's something really simple like, have you got a cigarette? But they know somebody cares,
Wow.
and people need to know that somebody cares.
Well, you mentioned you also would love to eradicate, bias, discrimination, institutionalization, and all that. And, I really, I hope people hear your story and help you. You mentioned that in the past, you said you gave a free dinner to raise awareness of the fact that we're
Uh,
losing our rights to informed consent to human medical experimentation. Can you share more about this?
yeah, we got that right under the Nuremberg Code
Okay.
after Nazi Germany, and under the 21st Century Cures Act, they stripped that away from us.
Oh,
And there's no exclusion for children. They specifically state in there that there's no exclusion for children. And so if you send your children to school now, they can
what?
experiment on them without even telling you. or informing.
I'm not familiar with this. This is I have a 7 and 9 year old. This is shocking. Could you share this with me? Oh my goodness.
Yeah, it's called the 21st Century Cures Act.
Okay.
And I had the full 50 pages of the Federal Register here, and I gave a free
What?
dinner to try and raise awareness for the fact that we were losing this right. And anyway, and I had a petition for people to sign, but then there was a big storm right when I had the dinner, and it didn't have very many people came, and but we did lose that right. And there's no exclusion for children, and it actually says in there that if appropriate, then you'll be informed after the fact. So that means they might not even ever tell you.
And wait, what is this called? Because I want to research this myself. What is the name of this?
The 21st Century Cures Act.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, yeah, we just lost that right in January 24th of 2024.
I am not familiar with this.
Yeah. Well, a lot of people on Twitter, they make they let you know about things like that. And once
Yeah.
I saw it, I was like, hey, we need
Yeah.
to. I went on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok, and did a live presentation to invite everybody. And anyway, we lost that right.
Goodness. Well, this is disturbing on so many different levels. And what else did you want to share with us today as you're here, trying to raise awareness about this?
Well, they also said that there was no reason to inform the tribes, the Native Americans, about this because I can't remember what their excuse they used, but since that's a population they're likely to experiment on, I think that they should be notified
Yeah.
also. And I actually called the Indian Center here in Wichita, Kansas, to inform them. But every time I think about giving up because I'm funding the whole thing myself and I'm doing all of the work myself, and sometimes my board of directors gets a little flaky. I see something else, and I'm like, nope, we can't have that. Somebody's got to say something or do something. I can't just sit here and do nothing. And
Mm.
so, but I could really use any volunteer work, any help getting the website up, any donations, just so I can continue the work of trying to protect our rights
Oh
and
my
raise
goodness.
awareness when we're starting to lose our rights.
Oh my gosh. Well, this is just unbelievable. And I want people to hear your story and hopefully reach out to help. And let's remind them again how they can contact you. Please, Karen, thank you.
Oh, also, I'm on Substack, and they can sign up for a subscription at Substack that would count as a donation.
And let me also point out, and you as a mom growing up in such hard times like this, what are some of the other obstacles you've challenged that were challenged? I was reading, of course, in your notes if you want to share that.
Oh yeah, well, financial challenges for sure, and just being taken seriously, especially after the rumors that were spread during the organized stalking, because that's part of organized stalking. They spread rumors about you, and they tried to discredit me, but I kept speaking truths
Yeah.
that nobody could argue with, and eventually, just by keeping speaking the truth, I got my credibility back, and and when I tried to post about the us losing our rights to informed consent to human medical
Oh,
experimentation on
yeah.
Nextdoor.
Yeah.
Everybody was calling me crazy and a conspiracy theorist and everything. But
Mm.
then when I posted the proof, it was that's when they said that they took my post down for inaccurate information or whatever. As long as I was being called crazy, it was fine. But as soon as I posted the proof, they took it down. So there's a lot of censorship, and Elon Musk is my hero over that.
Who do you have in your support system?
Actually, when I first came back from Hawaii, I was like, mom was trying to get me to go out and stuff, and I was like, all of those people that did the organized stalking, they're all still here. But my son was highly respected. He was highly respected, and so people I've met through him, or people are like, "That's Galen's mom," and
Mm-hmm.
the I get a lot of respect from that. And so I've got lots of friends now, and I've got my mom and her boyfriend. She's in her 70s and he's in his 80s. They go travel all the time, and anyway, they're a really good couple. And Jim Gross, the art professor at WSU, he's had art at the Louvre. He's we go out with him all the time.
Mm-hmm.
But,
Oh my goodness. Well,
yeah.
who so far has helped contribute to this? Just curious. You have anyone who started to help you with this?
Um, yeah, I did have a board of directors, but anyway, one of them showed up to the last meeting. I don't have to have one though, but so I could use help of all kinds, even if you want to be on the board of directors. I'd love that.
Mm-hmm.
um, but really, it's just been me, just me, just me.
Oh my
And
goodness.
I've been funding it all myself. I've been doing all of the work. Um, I try to get help when people are like, "Yeah, I'm gonna go over here and do this." It
Mm-hmm.
just sounds like a whole bunch of work, Karen. And I'm like, "Well, I'm gonna do the work."
Oh my goodness. Well, I
And
can't even imagine what you're going through and the pain of losing, your child and having to fight like this is just, it's a hard situation. And you have this platform now. I'm glad you're here with us. And let's remind everyone the name of of it, how we can contact you. And again, why they should reach out.
well, I'm Karen Cahail, the Cahail, and I'm on Substack. And you can subscribe to my newsletter there. And let's see, my phone number is 808-389-4482. And Necessary Education Corporation is registered with the state. It lists my address, or no, it lists the wrong address. But so that's my registered agent. But I can be contacted by any of those ways. And I will continue to raise awareness about when we're losing important rights. Whenever I see that, I'll continue to raise awareness about that so we know, people will know.
Mm,
And I'm trying to fight for the rights of um not mentally ill, but mentally people with mental health problems,
mhm.
who are being discriminated against instead of helped and abused.
Well, thank you so much for being here, for joining us. And I really wish people do reach out to share your story, to get involved, and again, to help her with that website. In the meantime, the phone number to call is 808-389-4482.
Hmm.
Beautiful. And in closing today, what did you want to leave off with saying to your listeners about, One Nation and how they can really change the world?
Well, I actually was inspired by Miriam Altman. She's the reason that all of our blood is now tested for hepatitis C, because in her one blood bank they tested. And I'd like to quote Barack Obama. He said, "One voice can change a room. One room can change a town. One town can change a state. One state can change a nation, and one nation can change the world. Therefore, one voice can change the world." Just like
Hmm.
Miriam Altman's did, Dr. Altman.
Got it. Well, thank you so much for being here, for joining us, and looking forward to the next time we get to connect. Thank you for being here today, and best of luck with the nonprofit. And I hope we get to speak again, Karen. Thank you.
For nearly 2,000 severely injured veterans, everyday life has become filled with barriers.
Day-to-day simple tasks can become pretty daunting.
I have to carry my chair up 2 flights of steps or have somebody do it for me.
What scares me the most is just the falling.
When I'm struggling with my house, I think, to have that one great barrier just knocked down, it's crucial.
Home for Our Troops is a wonderful nonprofit that builds a
Mortgage-free, fully adaptive, handicap-accessible house. And there's no catch.
It'll be our very first home that we've ever owned.
This is a game changer.
This is where your life begins again.
We need you to join us in completing this important mission. Please visit hfotusa.org and help build homes and rebuild lives.
Because of you, everything's going to be okay.